and you can't make somebody want something. And so when the pain gets bad enough, a friend of mine who's a very, very successful entrepreneur, he asks that question all the time, does it hurt bad enough yet? And if the answer is no, then it's probably not going to really push you to get it done. But when it hurts bad enough, you're going to do whatever needs to be done.
Welcome to the Profit Answer Man podcast, where business owners learn to scale their profits and cash flow and work less doing it. You built your business to fulfill your dreams and serve your mission. You're the backbone of America, creating the jobs and opportunities that keep our economy moving. And for that, you deserve to be well rewarded. We're Profit First certified. It's the first baby step in a journey we take our clients on, building cash-rich, margin-strong businesses that don't suck the life out of you. Check out the first 13 episodes of the podcast. It's Mike Michalowicz and my review of each chapter of the Profit First book. Around here, we speak cash flow, profit, and practical execution. No accounting jargon, no fluff. Most accountants, they might help you save on taxes, but they'll crush your cash flow and make you look unprofitable. That's not just a poor decision, it's a liability. We help you focus on what you love. And when we partner together, we become a profit center for your business. If we don't deliver a massive ROI on your investment in us, fire us. Want to see how it all works? Watch the video version on YouTube or head over to ProfitComesFirst.com to grab your free copy of the Profit Blueprint book and start making profit a habit. You built this business to serve your mission and your freedom. Let's make sure it pays you back big. Check out my free book, The Profit Blueprint, available at Profit Comes First. Let's face it, most business owners say they want freedom, but they end up trapped in their own success. The difference between chaos and clarity isn't more hustle, it's systems. Today's guest, David Forster, is the founder of Systems Over Sweat, a strategic expert in business operations for home services companies scaling from 1 to 5 million in revenue. With over 20 years of experience building, scaling, and exiting service businesses, David helps owners escape the chaos by fixing the hidden processes, draining their time, profit, and energy. He's not a guy with theory, he's a tactician. David's the guy who makes sure your operations actually operate. In this conversation, we'll unpack how to build boring, repeatable systems that create predictable profit, clear scorecards, and a business that finally runs without you. Who doesn't love that? Let's meet David. Welcome to the Profit Answer Man, David Forster. It's great to have you join us today.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me.
Can you share a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yeah, absolutely. I am a farm kid raised in Northeast Kansas on a cattle farm. Loved playing in the dirt as a kid and kind of never got out of it. So I've been around the landscape industry and outdoor industries for most of my life, if not all of my life when you really think about it. And started my first business in my teens, started doing a few other things here and there. I've worked in stonemasonry and mostly in my own businesses in landscaping, but loved working for a stonemason to learn a ton of that craft and work ethic, as if a farm wasn't enough, right? Went to school for landscape management at K-State, moved to Kansas City area, started another business there, grew that for a few years, sold it to focus on our marriage. A couple years later, we started another one, built that for a few years, got kind of at a good point with that one and ended up selling that to a young guy as a good start foundation for him. Now I serve as a COO of Taussig Landscape in Manhattan, Kansas, and I'm also the COO and lead coach for SOS, which is Systems Over Sweat for other landscape and outdoor service owners.
Nice. And you're also a fan of Profit First. What do you love about Profit First?
Yeah, I love, if I can't see it, I won't touch it. So I like separating things out anyway. So that was just, it made sense to give it all a title and a purpose. And it worked really well for my mindset and organizational style.
But you've mentioned some of your clients love it. Some of them hate it. Like, What's that all about? Like, what's the hate?
I think it's the time burden, if you don't have it all set up quite right, it can be, having to keep moving the money like into the different accounts each time can get kind of old if you don't have the right automation or system in place for it.
And now with Relay does it automatically for you. So they become your bank and you don't have to do anything. It just
set up the rules and it goes, right?
For you. Yeah, it just set up the rules and you go. So there's no more excuses for that.
I like it.
I mean, I do it for my business. It takes me about 5 minutes on the phone. And I use a spreadsheet. I put in my sales and then you move the money and then the bookkeeper will take care of everything else. That's their problem, right? But it definitely works. And it's a system that ensures that you have the money when you want it, where you want it, how you want it. I know you're a systems guy. I was just at my CFO mastermind today and they made this comment. It's like, if you can create boring, repeatable systems, that's what make businesses work and make them make money. And yet nobody likes to do that because it's boring and because it's work and it's not fun. But at the end of the day, when you've got people who need to do stuff and you've got a good system for them to run, business comes easy. You're not Mr. Firefighter all day. What have you found?
Well, as entrepreneurs, we like to color outside the lines, right? So doing that same thing over and over again just gets boring. Like you said, you get burned out.
But hold on. But that's exactly why you want to do it. You know why? Because as the entrepreneur, we don't have to run the system. We just have to build it and get someone else to do the boring work. So you can go color outside the lines.
Well, and the interesting thing, too, is when you understand putting the right people in the right seats on the bus, like you find the people that want that. They want that repetitive, boring, like, I want to know exactly what I need to do so I can just keep doing it. And so as an owner, generally that personality gets bored and wants to go do other stuff, right? But when you put the right person in the right seat, that's what they want. So you build it for them and then set them on fire.
And that's the key. And yet I struggle to get business owners to do it. How have you been able to get them to do it?
I still struggle. I mean, daily. But I've built good systems around accountability and clarity. I use it for clients. I use it for teams. I use it for all of it. I use it for myself. I mean, I got to set the same rules for myself in my own life. Even though I'm high on like the integrator side in EOS, I'm also very high on the visionary side. And so those type things battle each other. And I got to put the systems in place for myself, my morning routine, how I operate when I get to the office, how I operate in conversations, all of it.
I get that because I too I'm higher on the integrator than on the visionary, but I'm still pretty high for a visionary for an integrator type of person, which means I'm always making my systems better. Every year, we're constantly going back and going, how do we make the system better, faster, easier? Right? It's a living document. Yeah. And it's kind of like, hey, I want to put a little oil in there and make it go. What do I need to do to get rid of the squeaky parts of it and keep it rolling? So I know you talk about clarity, consistency, and accountability. And it's funny because from the financial position, I never thought that I would have to deal with accountability in the sense of I didn't realize how many of my business owners wanted that from me. I just assume you say you're going to do it, you go do it. How many business owners say the same thing about their people? But it doesn't always happen, right?
Yeah. You want to bend the rules, but right, especially if you wrote them.
Correct. That happens. So how do you help people to achieve those things, to get clarity, consistency, and accountability?
Yeah. I mean, it helps that I struggled on my own getting that accomplished, right? So just learning how to wrangle myself. I mean, if ADHD would have been a thing when I was a kid, I definitely would have been diagnosed, right? I was in the hallway more than I was in the classroom because I was a distraction. I was done and I was bored and I was just like class clown and having conversations and do it. So the way that I set it up was just, I knew that if I knew, what does the outcome need to be, reverse engineer that and figure out the steps to get there slowly. You got to slow down, build this thing out, and then let's put the pieces together. It's always it's a struggle. It's an ongoing struggle and a wrestling match internally and, between people, whether it's me with a client or a client with their team, and making sure that the communication is there and realizing that what clarity really is, right? Everybody communicates in a different way. So it's allowing for all of those types of communication to happen and not getting locked into your own way, keeping it as simple as possible, and being open to repeating the same thing, just in maybe a new way for somebody that understands it a different way or something. So
it reminds me of the phrase, slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Amen.
And we don't want to slow down to go fast, but yet you need to slow down and build out the systems. So when you get pushback on, I don't have time, I'm too busy, what do you tell these people?
That's exactly why we need to do it. Like, you can't answer their own question, right? Well, I just don't have time to do that. Well, isn't that why we're doing this? So you will have time. If you don't ever do it, you're never going to have time. If you take the time now, you'll always have the time.
They don't seem to buy that when I say it.
Not always, no.
So do you just let them go? Call me when you're ready? Or do you have a secret to getting them to do the work?
No, I mean, you have to want it, right? And you can't make somebody want something. And so when the pain gets bad enough, a friend of mine who's a very, very successful entrepreneur, he asks that question all the time, does it hurt bad enough yet? And if the answer is no, then it's probably not going to really push you to get it done. But when it hurts bad enough, you're going to do whatever needs to be done.
So what are the patterns that you tend to see in companies that succeed versus those that struggle? And what are the things that you look at to conquer as you're able to do that when you see these patterns? Is there a process you go through?
Yeah. I mean, just to get real specific, because I'm good at that, in the details, right? When I first sit down with somebody, I want to look at, do a lot of the initial EOS sit down with, what's your accountability chart look like, or your org chart? What are your role descriptions? What is your vision? What's the, 90-day, 1 year, 10-year, that stuff. We need to get that figured out so that then we can figure out, does your team even know what they're supposed to do? And that's so many times, those two steps right there, can make such a huge difference. A lot of times we verbally communicate and we talk about stuff and we get started and then we're like, all right, let's go. And then, 6 months later, it's like, why aren't you doing this? We talked about it already. Well, we talked about it once 6 months ago when you hired me. And then we've just kind of been going on the day-to-day, fire route. So making sure that those things are in place are huge. And that's, if I see a pattern, it's just the unclear expectation, unclear ownership, responsibilities, accountability that leads to decent, you hire good people and they want to perform well. And so you get decent results that helps you grow to a certain point. And then you kind of just cap out because nobody knows what to do from there.
When I look at businesses in the trades, I think of it as a bunch of people who want to do it their way. And so I'm always like, look, you're not a business owner, you're a trainer. Your job is to train them all to do it your way and to convince them that that's how it's going to be or they're not going to be here. So how do you get teams to actually adapt and sustain these systems?
Yeah. I mean, a big part of it is choosing, regardless of the size of your business, you have a leadership team of some type. If it's just you, you're the leadership team. If it's you and 5 people, there's probably at least 1 or 2 of those that you would consider bought into the vision that you have and doing things generally in a certain way together that flows well. It's probably your first crew that you had that really started flowing well. And so getting them to help set these systems in place. And I often use the analogy, when we're kids, it's like you've uncovered the Holy Grail when you realize, all right, if I just convinced Dad that this was his idea, they'll go for it, right? So you just got to figure out how to plant the seed. And then once dad comes up, hey, dad, that's a great idea. I think we should do that. If you can do that with your team, like plant some seeds around some ideas that you can cultivate with them, and then let them bring forth the ideas. And it's not going to be your idea that you made them think of, but they're going to bring some different viewpoints around those seeds that you planted, and you'll have better systems than you could have created on your own anyway. And developing that leadership group to build it with you, and then that gives you a lot more leverage to cast that to the rest of the team. And then as the team grows, it's already there. You just use that as the net to cast, right?
You do. Usually when these systems are built, who tends to build them? Is it the owner? Do they put someone in charge? Like, how do they get them built?
It depends on the size of the organization. If somebody's at a point where they can also have an operations manager already, then they tend to let that person do most of the processing of it and building. But in a smaller organization that doesn't have an operations manager yet, it's the owner, whether they're reluctant to or they're like overly excited to do it. Either way.
So you and I are systems people. Doing this is easy for us. But I've got to believe for a lot of business owners, creating systems isn't their forte. It's not what they do well. So what do we do with them?
Giving them a very clear path, a very structured, and this sounds kind of counterintuitive because they generally do not want structure. They do not want any path. They're going to blaze the path for themselves, right? So the CEO here at Taussig, Derek, he is a very strong visionary. He loves to blaze the path. He loves to be cutting edge. He loves all that. And thankfully, he understands the value of setting those systems in place and processes that are going to keep you inside the bumpers. But being able to provide that, like a foundation and a clear structure for how to build it, but giving them those bumpers on the outside. Hey, this is the direction we need to head. This is where we're going to start. So start filling this out, and then you're going to start to like get that ball rolling and get that momentum, and then just do what you do well, which is cast vision. What do you want this process to look like? What do you want the outcome to be? All right, let's build that. And that usually gets the ball rolling for them because they love to cast vision.
When you work with people, do you build a process or help them build it, or do you just instruct on how to build it?
We can do a little bit of either. I have some great templates to get started that kind of give like I said, the structure and the boundaries around what it should look like to keep it simple. So, because it's like writing an essay in school, right? Like, hey, we want a 500-word essay around this, and you're like, But if somebody gave you 6 questions to answer, yeah, you could have 500 words in no time. So I put the right questions on the paper that help me build those things in the right order. And then that gets them started. And then I just kind of guide along the way and I'm kind of that accountability partner and friend that says, yes, either you're on the right track or, hey, you've nailed it. And it gives you the confidence to implement with your team and face the resistance that you're inevitably going to have a little bit of over the first course of implementation. So you don't feel like, maybe this isn't right. Maybe I need to change it. Maybe I need to start over. It's like, no. I'm the guy that will help you and say, no, this is right. They just don't like it. So give them some time and we'll get there.
Well, what do you do when they don't like it?
Stick to it. That's the consistency part. So you get something very clear and you stay consistent with it. And there's a certain point if you'll know if they just don't like having rules and they're trying to push back and see if you'll give up on it and let them go back to their old ways, or if this needs some tweaking. And you gotta work with your team in that. There's a little bit of people skills involved in that part of it.
This is what I find, that if they get the pushback, they don't always have the time to ensure that it gets done, or it might get done for a month or two and then it drops off little by little, and then all of a sudden.
Yep. I've seen that.
And so they have to come back to it. Honestly, though, in today's world of AI, I think this is easier to do than ever. Between that, you don't need fancy videos. I'm perfectly fine with iPhone videos or Loom videos or like perfection is not what we're going for. We're going for simple. The other thing I tell people is do it in small clips. And what I mean by that is if you're using software, for example, to do something, or even if you're doing stuff outside, if a part of the system changes, you don't want to have to redo the entire video. You want to just have clips. So it's like, hey, this is that part of the video. Plus, if somebody knows 80% of it and they forget 20, it's easy for them to find the parts they forgot and go back and just watch that so you're not wasting time.
Yeah, especially with, for software, like something like Loom, or even just using your own like Zoom at a self meeting and share your screen or whatever. Those are great. And then, your crew in the field can take pictures and or short video clips around stuff, or you can chop it up on YouTube and make it into clips and use those QR codes in your SOPs that the team can scan out in the field and go to those specific videos for that specific step.
And you can hide videos in YouTube so that the public can't see them, but just your people can. So that's an easy thing to do too. You don't even have to pay for hosting. We love ways to get other people to pay for our stuff. You might as well, right? Actually, now that I'm thinking of it, you could even put commercials in them and get paid for your people watching them, but then you're wasting time when they're on the clock. You have to watch those
strategic commercials, I guess.
Strategic commercials, yeah. Maybe you put the right kind of commercials that motivate them to work harder. That might actually work, especially if you could put them to who the specific person is watching. So how do you ensure 6 months, 9 months, 12 months later, things are still getting done?
Yeah. That's where a lot of the EOS structure comes in. You're going to have your quarterly meetings, you're going to have your annual meeting. You're going to want to review especially the first couple of years, review these new SOPs, these new processes, and make sure that they're performing the way that you want them to. And you're going to need your team's feedback on all of that. And you need to not get everybody's feedback, and you don't want to pull everybody together in a meeting and start doing a feedback on, but just keep your ears open. They'll give you the feedback. And when you're asking questions about things, you'll understand if you listen carefully where that is actually coming from. But measuring it with that account, that's the accountability part, is having the right KPIs and the right scorecards in place. And not just put them there so that, AI and some automation can collect numbers and then oh yeah, cool. Now we track it. What are you doing with it? Information without the right direction is useless, right? So making sure that you're actually following up on that and working with your team on those items will show a lot.
And one of the things I found with scorecards, a couple things. One, you need to make sure your scorecards actually create the success that you want. Meaning, if the things on the scorecard get done, do you actually have success? A lot of times I find that does not happen. The other thing is people tend to ignore the bad outcomes. It's like, oh, yeah, we didn't miss that goal today. Oh, yeah, we didn't hit that goal this week. And if nobody calls them out and goes 3 weeks in a row, no hitting goal, we got to have a conversation, then it becomes a problem. Do you find that to be an issue? Or
it can, sometimes, I've been guilty as an owner setting unrealistic goals, right? So you need to look at, okay, if we haven't hit that in a month, is that because we're just having unrealistic expectations on what can be reached? Or is that a training thing that we need to revisit in your role? You're just not clear on that as far as that stuff. But when you were saying, making sure the scorecard actually measures success, if you're a quarterback in the NFL, you could measure how many times you throw the ball, and they do that, right? They try to look at pass completion percentages, right? But if all you did was measure okay, how many times did you throw? How many phone calls did you make? Well, I made 500 phone calls this week. Okay. If we don't if we're not using that towards some other measurement as well, that And how many sales did you make? Okay, so you made 500 phone calls and you sold 5. Okay, well, your ratio is 100 to 5. So if we need to make 50 sales, apparently you need to make 5,000 phone calls. Like, okay, we know your ratio. But if you're not measuring the right stuff and you're just, the stuff you're using isn't resulting in any understanding, then yeah, it's just kind of a waste of time.
And that makes a lot of sense. You do have to make sure it's right and that you are focusing on what's important. And people have to have the courage to call it out when it's not hitting the goal. What do you see are some of the biggest struggles? Like once people commit to doing this and they're doing it, where do you find that they struggle?
Sticking to it.
When does it start to drop off?
Generally, I'd say it's pretty fast. I would say like 90 days to 6 months. Like if it's, you got to, what is it? A habit is formed within, I've heard as much like 21 days, 27 days, 60 days. Like it depends on how often you're using it. I'm sure there's some other variables in there that usually don't get talked about. But when it's a new process for your whole team, everybody's going to adapt a little bit differently, some faster, some slower. But somewhere in that 90 days to 6 months is when you kind of like, okay, now I'm kind of tired of doing this new thing. Like, let's just go back to my old ways. And it was easier then. I didn't have to think about it so much. But if you can get over that 6-month point, it generally sticks pretty well.
How do you bring new people into the system? And do you make it part of your hiring process?
Yeah. Yes. Like onboarding is huge. It's a fresh chance to kind of just, you got a blank slate with a new person. They don't know any better, right? So especially if you're starting something new, that's a great time to have that right impression. It does get interesting when then they're integrated into the rest of the team that maybe not new and is still got some of the, the old ways that they're trying to stick to, but keeping a good timeline, a very clear onboarding of how you're following up on those things being implemented with them. And you can see the true character of the new hire as well, and whether they try to go the easy route with the way that they see other people doing it, or whether they're trying to lean into what you are training them and pull the rest of the team up with them. So you can identify pretty quickly what role they might have in the future by doing that as well.
What other roadblocks have you run into or have business owners run into when they're trying to put systems in place?
They don't like being the bad guy, or they probably a better way of better direction to take that is they don't want to feel too corporate. I hear that a lot. We're a small family-owned company. We don't want to feel all corporate, like you have to obey all these rules. And that's been a pretty common discussion. I've got a lot I could say about that, but what do you think about that?
So that's the mentality of the business owner, and I get it. I just know when my kids were young, we had rules. And, when you run a business, and I think most of you listening would agree, it's like you got a bunch of kids that you're trying to keep in line.
I used to hate saying that. And then once we had kids, we were a little bit later to the kid game in parenting. But when I realized, like, I love my kids, like, and I have rules for things because I want the best for them, right? It's not because I want to control them. And so I shifted my thought process on that to all my different teams and people's teams. And it's like, oh, well, it's not bad to think of them as your kid. I love my kids. I love my team, right? They're adults, so we expect a little different from them. But that's what those processes and boundaries are for, is because even as adults, we still appreciate boundaries.
We do. And with kids, what they love about boundaries is they know where the fence is. So they feel fine playing within the fence. And occasionally you've got the kid who always wants to touch the fence, which is even good in business because it's like, hey, you guys can all play here and you'll be safe. No one's going to yell at you. You followed the process. The outcome might not have been right, but you followed the process. It's not your fault. And the one who's constantly pushing the fence, it's like, okay, how do we make it better? How do we improve it? That's your job. Like, test it, make it better, make it simpler. If you can make the system simpler, I absolutely love it.
And I like the analogy with the fence, because that's a great visual for the boundary, right? How often how often have you dealt with owners that don't necessarily adopt that, where you said you followed the process. The outcome wasn't quite what we wanted, but you followed the process, so it's okay. How often do you run into owners that don't quite see it that way? They're more outcome focused than process focused.
I don't usually get down to that level with them. And so it's not as much of a problem. I learned that coaching soccer. It's like, if you follow the patterns in the plays, I don't care if you screw up. Like, in other words, you followed the pattern, it didn't work, that's your coach's fault. But if you do it your way and you're always out of position and they score against us, that's your fault. And so that's kind of the way I always did it. I'm not that much in the weeds with my business owners, but I would stand behind them to say, hey, if they followed your process and it didn't work, that's on you, meaning the owner. That's not on your people. And you just have to accept it. Then it's a question as, was the process broken? Did we hit a new bump that we never imagined? And that's where it gets interesting, because I have had some owners who want to create 38-page manuals for that one reason. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Like, it was a one-off mistake. Like, don't make this, because people will not follow overly complicated systems.
Don't recreate the system for an outlier, right? Like, stick to the 80% that creates the bulk of what you're doing.
That's correct. Keep it simple, keep it usable, keep it actionable, own your side. But then the other half, and I know even I'm guilty of it, is not holding the other side accountable.
Yeah, a lot of the self-discipline and the awareness of yourself and your personality to hold that side.
Yeah, but to hold the other people accountable, everyone kind of wants to let it go for a variety of reasons,
Yeah. And that makes me, I just had a conversation with an owner that asked, when we have those situations, how do I address, my SOP says this, but we've run into that. And I don't want my crew to be so stuck in the SOP that they can't do that. And so then I walked him through kind of the way I help a lot of times, very initially, even people that aren't clients. I have a cheat sheet called the Think Like Me cheat sheet. And it's a list of questions that I always ask myself when I get those phone calls. Hey, what do I do now? This happened. What do we do? It's like, okay, well, what are the first 10 things that run through my mind? Is the customer paying, or are we paying for it? Do we have the materials already, or do we need to get them? How does this affect the timeline? Do we have the people that we need to do this? And writing all those out so they can think through those things when they run into that. Well, this isn't within my SOP. Okay, well, what is it? Ask these questions, think of some solutions, do the 1-3-1, give me a call. And that's really given a lot of autonomy and freedom to think in those margins that are outside a little bit, kind of the bumpers that they need.
Have you ever read anything from Derek Sivers?
Sounds kind of familiar, but no, I don't think so.
He was an entrepreneur who, he did some things right and he did some things bad. But the one thing he did well was he learned. He goes, I'm tired of answering these questions. And he would go out, and every time a question would come up, he would explain to them how to think. And when you said that, that was his thing. Like, I want you to think about it in this way. And these are the questions about how to think through it. And if it's this, then go do it. Like, I give you the authority to be able to make those decisions. And we won't get mad at you. You do your best. And there's a lot of companies that give their people that latitude. And so I think that's important. Or you fix the process and go, hey, your process is broken. Here's a suggestion of how to fix it. And we fix it. I always say that there's two kinds of decisions. There's the easily reversible, fixable decision. Don't fuss over those. And then there's the difficult, hard to repair decision. Those you need to fuss over and understand which is which. And, we didn't mention this at the beginning, but most of the companies you work with are low seven figures, aren't they?
Yep. Kind of in that like one to three, maybe up to five-ish.
And this is the time you have to build this, because if you don't build it at this point, you're going to get overwhelmed. And two, you cannot scale and grow because the monster will get away from you. And then it's next to impossible to bring it back. It's going to be 10x the work. So when you're at the smaller stage, that's the time to take this action, build out your systems and processes, even if you have to slow down growth. It is better for you to slow down, do it right, because then you can grow faster and you will not have the mistakes and you will not have the cost of the mistakes, which is what I don't think anybody really understands. Like when those things go wrong, it does not take long to blow your month's profit because of a mistake. And at the end of the day, you're the leader, so make sure you did it right. Is there anything else we should have talked about but didn't get a chance to?
No, I mean, this has been a great conversation with a ton of value, even just for me to have. So I appreciate the time. I think we got it.
You are most welcome. If people would like to learn more about you or possibly use your services, how do they do that?
Yeah, you can check out some details at systemsoversweat.com. And if they want to, they can just email me directly, david@systemsoversweat.com. And if they mention the show, I'll send them over that Think Like Me template cheat sheet so they can start putting that into practice and see how it impacts their day-to-day.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
At my core, I'm a systems guy, and systems create freedom. David reminds us that boring is beautiful and profitable when it comes to business. If you're constantly firefighting, start with clarity, define the roles, document the 80%, and let the data guide your decisions. Pair that with profit first and simple scorecards, and you've got a business that runs smoothly and profitably without you needing to do it all. We use the same principles David talked about to help business owners do what we talked about today. The question is, are you ready to turn your chaos into clarity? If you need help to take control of your business and finally have profit, cash flow, and peace of mind, that's what I help business owners do every day. Because you don't need more resources. You need to be more resourceful, and we'll show you how. Remember, we always focus on the bottom line. Thanks for listening to The Profit Answer Man, where we believe more revenue doesn't mean more profit, and the bottom line is what really matters. If you're ready to stop living, check to check, take control of your cash flow, and finally get paid what you're worth, we should talk. We work with 7- and 8-figure businesses and well-funded startups. If you're a smaller business, check out the Profit Blueprint program. It's a do-it-yourself solution that also can come with my direct guidance in the same level we give our one-on-one clients. When you're ready for results, book a discovery call. There's a link in the show notes or at profitcomesfirst.com. You'll be speaking and working directly with me. In the meantime, grab your free copy of the Profit Blueprint at profitcomesfirst.com. It's the next step to turning your business into a consistent cash flow generating machine. If you'd like to dig more into leading yourself, your company, and building the ultimate life, listen to my other podcast, Richer Soul, where we cover these topics in great depth. There's a link in the show notes. As we close out, let's repeat the mantra. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. Have an abundant and profitable week.